What's up, potheads and political junkies? You're watching Cannabis Culture News Live. It's Jeremiah here with Johnny Boy on the torch.
And I'm always on the torch.
You are always on the torch. And Carly Marley, who's joining us.
Carly's
sitting in the middle seat today. We have some special guests here today. The hot seat, we have the creators of the award-winning film Dosed. And that's Tyler Chandler, Nicolas and Gareth Moxey. Tyler, who is the director and co-producer. Nicolas is the cinematographer and co-producer. And Gareth is an entheogen provider and harm reduction activist based in Vancouver who's in the film. Good to have you guys here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and I've actually had the pleasure to see the movie, which is premiering soon here in Vancouver at the Vogue Theatre on October 7th. It's also a joint fundraiser to raise awareness about using psychedelics in a therapeutic context. I actually had a little private screening beforehand, or some of us did, right? Oh, yeah. And I was really pleased with this movie. It's pretty damn amazing. I just wanted to sort of give a little heads up about what the movie is about. The film follows the subject of the film, Adrienne, as she attempts to get help from underground healers in using magic mushrooms and Iboga treatments to overcome her depression and opioid addiction. Mm-hmm. So it's a very timely movie. There's a huge opioid crisis going on, so it's really great to see this stuff coming out. Good to have you guys here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, and so I thought maybe, Tyler, I'd start with you and just talking about how did this movie come about? How did this come up? It's obviously a very personal movie, so it, how did it come about?
Yeah, I mean, it came from just the fact that I was having a conversation with my friend, and she was feeling suicidal at the time. She's been struggling with addiction for many years, and this would be going back to really like probably 20 years when she started getting prescribed a bunch of prescription medications and stuff like that, and at any given point she was on like up to 15 of these medications. So years and years go by, she's not getting any better. She's now transitioned her addictions from alcohol to cocaine to opioids. She's using heroin on the downtown east side, which is laced with fentanyl, so she's in a very dangerous situation. Mm. And she was feeling suicidal, and there was really nothing left from the doctors to do. She's already on methadone, and prescription medication didn't work. So we decided to try magic mushrooms to see if it would help with her depression. And Nick and I, we didn't really know what to expect. We thought we'd just be there to support her, and we talked about it beforehand, and she was cool with us filming just in case it worked and there'd be a good message to share with the world. And we honestly thought like it probably wouldn't work, or like maybe it would, maybe it wouldn't, but we just would film it just in case. And her first modest dose of magic mushrooms shot her out of the depression. So it set her out on a much like on the right trajectory to keep exploring plant medicines and try to get over all of the mental illness and addiction that she'd been suffering with.
Mm-hmm. And because you were just starting with the mushrooms itself, that was the initial idea.
Yeah.
But as you sort of progress in the film, you cover some of this in the movie about how things sort of changed, and you started looking at the Iboga plant.
Yeah, we thought that mushrooms would be helpful for like any kind of addiction, because when you do the research, they are very helpful for smoking, like tobacco cessation, cocaine addiction, and all types, meth, stuff like that. And so we thought, oh, okay, well, this is great. This would be like a nice thing. She can use mushrooms, and we'll figure out, she'll figure out how to do it, and sort of like use it as a tool of therapy and healing. But there's like the physical component to opioid addiction that we weren't really aware of. And so we started talking to a bunch of people in the plant medicine community, people that are working with these substances, with patients all the time. And that's when we met Gareth, and he was sort of the first person to really drive home the fact that like you need something else for opioid addiction to really remove the physical withdrawals. So when you detox, you don't feel physical withdrawals, and that allows people to get through that really difficult several days.
And that's what that...
weeks even. I mean, Gareth could speak to that more. He's got all the...
and maybe, I'm not sure how many of our viewers know about Iboga, the active ingredient in the Iboga plant that is very helpful for getting people off of addictive substances. Gareth, maybe you could tell people a little bit about, I mean, this is a sacred plant that's been around for a long time. When did people start finding out about this use, or how did you find out about this?
I recovered myself from alcoholism with LSD some 19 years ago, and I'd known about Iboga since I bought Plants of the Gods, which is a book by Albert Hoffman.
Right.
I had that in the first edition, so I knew about Iboga, and it had always been something that I wanted to try. And then when I used LSD to combat alcoholism, and it worked. And so then,
how much LSD were you using?
oh no, I did a large dose. Yeah. When I was in California.
Liquid, or doing like
paper? No, it was paper, but it was like 300 or 400 mics or something or other. And I knew about the work that had gone on in the 1950s when they were using LSD to treat alcoholism. So I that kind of set me off on the path, and it was that time that I got on the internet, and that's when I found Mindvox, which was a list, which was kind of the beginnings of underground Ibogaine in the States and around the world. So I kind of had my fingers on the pulse of it, and after recovering from alcoholism with LSD, it was the idea then to come to Canada and start working with Ibogaine, but it never actually happened until I had an opiate relapse, and then I took it myself some 8 years ago, and then that set me off on the path now, to kind of working with.
Did you work with somebody the first time you took it?
Yes. Well, no, I didn't. I did it in Britain in a very kind of DIY situation, which was, I feel lucky to be here.
Not advisable,
We're
everybody.
talking
Not
about
advisable.
psychedelics, you're talking about LSD, you're talking about mushrooms, there's some DMT in there, anything else like that? Or?
Yeah, well, this was Iboga in particular, and then that kind of set me off on the path, and and then I met Trevor Miller at the Ibogaine Providers Conference, but I'd already previously gone to Mexico and got some training on how to work with that medicine.
Oh, cool.
And
we would never want anybody to take any Iboga themselves. It's
No,
not something that you do. It's
no.
actually quite dangerous. You need to get your
I don't
medicals
know too
done.
much about it,
You need to have the training.
I'm not educated in that.
it carries a lot of power to abruptly take somebody off of heroin, or abruptly interrupt an addiction to alcohol, cocaine, or even behaviors. So considering it has that power, it also has the power to do damage if it's given to the wrong person at the wrong time.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, and I mean, I think you show some of that process in the film, and it is definitely, you need that guide there to help people out. And I mean, I think that's good with any psychedelics. Really, your first time you do them, it doesn't hurt to have a guide around, because it can be a little bit of a jarring experience for sure.
Yeah. I know, I've heard of ayahuasca trips and stuff like that, where people have shamans and guides and stuff like that.
Sure.
I've never tried myself, but I heard it's being another reset for a lot of people suffering with severe anxiety, depression, or other illnesses and stuff like that. They're able to actually take a better look at what they're going through.
It's kind of different psychedelic use, and this kind of came up in conversation the other night at Conscious Living Radio. This kind of crossover from recreational use to more the healing properties of these substances. And so I'd taken an awful lot of LSD before I took it to combat alcoholism, but it was really the intention that was behind it and the way I'd used it. So I think that there are kind of recreational uses for psychedelics to a certain extent, in lower doses, and many of us are
So you think
older.
lower dosages for recreational, and I was
Well, a lot of us had introductions to
Right.
psychedelics at festivals and raves and stuff like that, and so I would never use psychedelics in that way now, because I use them in a different way. But our introduction to them were more recreational, and we call them like, did I have a good trip or a bad trip? Now, if we're thinking about it, using it more for personal growth and stuff like that, well, often the more challenging, or from a recreational point of view, bad trips are the ones that are actually the most life-changing and can be the most rewarding. Do you know what I mean? So it's actually quite a different approach to
it's all
the whole psychedelic thing. And we would never have dreamt of taking LSD with eye shades. Do you know what I mean? And going in, that would have been considered something almost like dangerous or something. It was all about doing, with friends and watching the walls drip which is, there was some, some good stuff that came out of that, but it was kind of not really what.
Some of the most
beneficial use.
I would, for me, my use of psychedelics, especially acid, has been probably the most profound and life-changing experiences. And I was using it recreationally, but it quickly became something much more than that.
Right.
It became something transcendent and something very almost spiritual.
Sure.
In a way that you're just I was downloading some kind of information from somewhere telling me that everything's going to be okay forever. So it was some good stuff. It was literally almost like a nirvana experience.
Yeah.
And I learned a heck of a lot just from trying to use it recreationally. So it has its way with you sometimes.
A lot of people experience that for sure, where they're using it recreationally and they'll have these sort of epiphanies or these life sort of lessons or something like that. But a lot of people that we've spoken to throughout this experience, they actually have negative experiences from psychedelics, or they don't have any kind of profound experience. They might have a good experience, but it won't be profound. And only when they sort of work on it therapeutically with a guide and with the right intention, which is that they're going to go inside themselves and try to learn something about a problem that they're facing, or about the source of their anxiety, or working through a trauma in their childhood or something like that. Only when they sort of approach it with that intention, with proper care and support in the right setting, only then will they feel like they're having some good results for their anxiety or their depression or their drug addiction.
Yeah, for sure. And that targeted therapeutic approach.
What's that?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people that we filmed that aren't in the documentary, and they experimented with varying doses, and sometimes as little as an actual proper microdose, which is subperceptual, helped somebody that we know overcome their depression. Just like one series of
how someone feels too. If this is going to work, and we've seen different things in medicine and stuff like that. If they truly believe in something, I think the power of just that with that drug at the same time really helps people overcome a lot of the symptoms of being depressed and stuff. Because
you can't force it on anybody. You have to. People just have to decide to do it, whether it's a small dose or a big dose, and anybody that's done a big dose as well. Like every single person that's done a high dose of mushrooms, specifically with the special Johns Hopkins playlist and the sleep mask, after they're done, after like the 6 hours is over and the playlist is finished, they're just kind of like, wow, like that was intense. It takes you to sort of like a different world, or like you feel the world and like humanity and suffering. You realize like whatever's causing you a bit of anxiety and stuff like that, it's just allows you to realize that that's not important, and there's something bigger at play, and like the feeling of connectedness.
What's on that playlist?
A lot of classical music.
I mean, it's
a lot of beautiful music.
Sure.
A lot of music that's designed to evoke like a lot of emotions.
You can just look it up.
It gets intense and dark
so
too,
intense,
though.
yeah.
It goes for like 5 or 6 hours.
Do you have to do if you want to do that?
6 grams.
5 or 6. Yeah.
So what are we doing?
He's got a bag over there.
I did a lot of pain therapy through sounds and through different tones and stuff like that. So I mean, with certain, I've always learned with certain sounds or certain tones, and what you're saying can help people a lot get through things. So yeah, what
I wanted to ask the creators, where did you guys get this crazy idea about mushrooms helping people anyways? Where did you just read about this online or
just
something?
Just an article online. It was just one article actually, and Nick and I were thinking about doing something for fun, really, like, let's film a documentary. I've done a few. He had not done one yet, and then so this was an idea that was being kicked around, and then it wasn't until Adrienne was messaging with me about her current situation that I asked her if she'd ever tried psychedelics to help, And then when we decided to start filming, that's when, you know, we thought, I guess, like we would test it out and see.
It was a remarkable how it all happened, because essentially you have a woman that not only had she gone through all of these attempts to heal herself with psychiatric medication that had been prescribed to her, also rehab facilities, things like that, different types of treatment options, just decades of suffering, really, being addicted to hardcore drugs, street drugs, at risk of overdose and any day from fentanyl-laced heroin, and really at her last option. And so when she wanted to do this, we didn't really have any other choice but to embark on this journey, and it was really scary. We didn't know if honestly she was going to make it. We didn't know what was the outcome was going to be. We didn't know if it was going to work. We invested all our time into this story because we believed that there was likely to be a positive result, and so we just can't believe that we're out the other end of it, and this has occurred. It's a good result.
If the film didn't end up having a positive result, do you still think you would have published it?
Well, the thing is, like, there are no magic bullets, right? So there's no one solution that's going to save everybody in all circumstances. It really depends on the individual and their life experience and their circle. Are they connected with good people that or bad influences as they move forward and try to heal, right? And all sorts of other factors, right? And so, like, there's no 100% success rate to anything. So if it hadn't been successful, there still would have been an amazing sort of conversation around it with all these experts that we have in the film. We have key figures in the psychedelic research and healing community that are really contextualizing everything and providing all this awesome knowledge. So if it hadn't have worked, it would have been just like really sad and not as good movie, but really interesting, and I guess we could put it out maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, it's kind of funny because every documentary that I've seen about this topic on, you know, Netflix, there's not many, but there's a few, but they all don't really seem to have it worked ending. And you know, there's kind of like you know, not too sure ending. There's one that totally didn't work, you know, and so, like, there's still an opportunity to share that, but definitely it wasn't really about the film. Like Nick and I said many times throughout the process that we would stop filming because we're just trying to help Adrienne at this point, right? It's like there's something way bigger and way more important, and it's like helping Adrienne. And even like the fact that, you know, a couple grams of mushrooms in you know, with the right intention and not doing it exactly how they would do it in a therapeutic context, but even the fact that helped her enough. She was feeling suicidal, right? And then she wasn't. It sort of blasted her out of that feeling, the feelings of suicidality. So like, that's a success in itself. But then there's still like the opioid addiction and everything. And, you know, Western medicine would tell you that if you're on methadone for the rest of your life, then that's a good solution. But what it was doing to her is it was like, it slows down your digestive system. It makes you crave sugar. Like she was eating like...
She's tired all the time.
All the time. She was eating like 6 chocolate bars a day sometimes.
And it's in the film, and it's brutal. I mean, it's almost as brutal as the damn drug itself.
People don't like it.
People find it worse than actually heroin.
And it's harder.
Worse than heroin.
It's harder to get off of, but you know, it's long acting, so you don't have like the short acting physical cravings. But most people that are on methadone, they will use on top anyways because it doesn't provide the escape. So they're escaping from something, some sort of trauma, and that feeling of just, I guess, numbing out is what they're seeking. And then when you start adding the psychedelics,
Oh, happy 420.
It's 420.
We got a big joint to light up.
As you know, I already had my torch.
Sorry to cut you off there, Tyler.
No, good. 420.
It's
also 920, so happy 920.
It's 920 as well.
That's the magic mushroom day.
The magic mushroom day. You did not know that.
The 920 Coalition started this, and I actually never looked up like the history or why is it 920. I don't know. Maybe there's a little protest.
Well, it's a
or
Marin
something,
thing,
but...
isn't it? It's from Marin County, and the 420 thing started there. So
okay.
So 920 in Marin, that makes sense.
But they got their 920 now.
That's very cool. Well, it's a really beautiful piece of filmmaking. Aside from all of that, I mean, there's the film itself as a film. And you know, you guys have been showing it at film festivals, and it's an award-winning film now. I saw that you guys at the Melbourne Festival there. That's pretty amazing. But I mean, and it's really, it's so educational, but yet it has this sort of fly-on-the-wall perspective of watching this intensely personal thing, really. Adrienne, she was absolutely fantastic in the film. And how has she sort of been dealing with this intensely personal nature of the film? And you guys are showing it to people and stuff.
I mean, the private showing that you were at, that's the first time she saw it, and Nick and I were really worried she wouldn't like it. Like, you were like, oh god, like.
So she hadn't seen it before that at all.
No.
Wow, that's pretty crazy.
It's very tough for her to watch, and
I bet.
Wasn't necessarily always the happiest points of her life that we had the camera pointed at her.
And so on October 7th at the Vogue, when we screened there, she's asked a couple times. She's like, what am I gonna do? Because I don't want to watch it again, because it's like, it's personal. It's, you know, she was in tears a lot, but a lot of people were in tears. Like,
saw it in LA as well, though.
Yeah, the whole
Seen it
audience
twice. So maybe she'll watch it again.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. You can hang out with the lobby and in the lobby or whatever. Just come after.
Ask her, she'll be there, right?
She will be there, and she'll probably watch it anyways. But she's gonna be there. She's gonna be on stage after and answering questions from the audience about her journey.
I mean, the real answer is, like, how is she doing with it? Very, very well. Like, very, very well handling all of that pressure, all of that everything. She's doing great. No one really wants to see a movie of yourself going through like a really hard point of your life right now.
She totally bears her soul.
I know, right?
It's very courageous.
Yeah. Probably the number one comment we get on the movie is just like, "Wow, Adrienne is just so courageous. It's so amazing."
For real. I think we should play the trailer for those who haven't seen it. We did play it on the show once before, but let's throw that trailer on, and we'll be back in 2 minutes after.
Do you think those people downtown grew up thinking that that's where they wanted to be? Do you think they want to be face down with their pants on the ground and like fucking needles sticking out of their arm? That's no way to live.
Like, my only friend is heroin.
Addicts tend to feel alone and depressed.
I'm surrounded a lot by the dark thoughts.
Magic mushrooms allow you to change your mind.
Psychedelics will be able to help with many mental health problems.
There's one that fucking nails it right home.
Opiate addiction is completely unbearable.
I'm so sick of this.
God is not coming.
She has to go in and find out why she's an addict.
Memories will come up that they're never ever conscious of before.
I have a memory of going to this house.
She's reliving some moment over and over and over. Something happened in that house, right?
Adrienne, are you still with us? What's the best way to love yourself?
I don't know.
That's good. You know, you can look for that too tonight. Iboga goes deep to the root cause. Check her pulse. We ended up going to the hospital just to make sure that she was okay.
I should be dead from 20 milligrams. I didn't feel a fucking thing.
You better fucking give it to me. They were restraining me.
I'm still in withdrawals. Make it stop.
If it was easy, it wouldn't work.
Is Marley okay?
Dad.
I'm a father, and that really hurt.
I'm staying up so much.
When it turns, it's just there.
That's Iboga. Try to deal with it.
All of a sudden, that soul has a new set of eyes to look through.
Sometimes the scariest thing we choose to do is take the dose.
Oh, wow.
All right. So that was the trailer for Dosed. And there's a premiere of Dosed happening on October 7th at the Vogue Theater here in Vancouver. I think it's like 6:30. You can get tickets online for that still?
Just, you know, at the website.
Dosedmovie.com is the website.
So it's a
Facebook page,
a screening of the film. It's followed by a Q&A. We've got Paul Stamets, the renowned mycologist.
Yeah.
Dennis McKenna. psychonaut extraordinaire.
Mm-hmm.
We've got key people from the film like Gareth speaking, Mark Howard, Mark Hayden from MAPS Canada. It's a MAPS Canada fundraiser. Trevor Miller's on there.
Yeah.
Us, Adrienne. So there's a huge opportunity to come and not only watch the film, but sort of interact with everybody and ask your questions and learn more about this.
Yeah, it's going to be a cool evening.
That's the thing, is there is so much more to ask once you've actually watched the film, because it's the snapshot, and it's showing this, but there's so much more about it to learn. And like some of that, I wanted to get into some of that with you guys about studies, because obviously that's how you guys started learning about this, is because studies have been popping up. Are there certain studies or anything that stood out to you guys, or ones that you could point people to about either mushrooms or Iboga? Like we can actually put probably links in the thing afterwards if anybody.
Yeah, I mean for mushrooms, one of the first ones was the Imperial College London did a small clinical trial using psilocybin to treat untreatable depression.
Treatment-resistant depression. Nothing else is working.
Yeah, and they had like a hugely high success rate with that. I think it was in like the 80 or 90% range.
Yeah.
And so that was one, and then there's another one with Johns Hopkins that was for end-of-life anxiety, and people were having really positive results in high percentages dealing with their end-of-life anxiety. So let's say they got diagnosed with terminal cancer, and they're just really stressed out and don't know how to deal with the fact that they're going to die in maybe a few months, and then they would take the psilocybin, and then they don't have those fearful thoughts anymore, and they can just be at peace for their last days and live out a happier life. So those were the two, because Adrienne has struggled her whole life with depression and anxiety.
Right.
And then also like in Vancouver, they're going to be starting a clinical trial using psilocybin for substance use disorders. And so when we kind of put all that together, we're like, okay, well, magic mushrooms should work for her, and so let's try that. And she was down because she was in a dangerous situation using fentanyl-laced mystery drugs.
I've worked in the east side and stuff like that. Around next, no one wants to be a junkie. No one, everybody wants to get clean. A lot of people struggle trying to get clean, finding ways to, and they always want to relapsing and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's really it's great what you guys are doing.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that we have a person who has a show on Pod TV, Neil Magnuson. And he's an activist who has for a long time now been serving people cannabis edibles on the east side, the Cannabis Substitution Project through Vandu. And they're having some amazing results with the cannabis therapy, people just taking high-dose edibles as a replacement therapy, essentially, and just to help them wean themselves off of the street stuff. And they've been getting really remarkable results. And, I think that it's really good to see that. It seems like there's a whole host of different drugs that might work for this kind of thing. Yeah. And I think some of it comes with the therapy that goes along with it, I think. And that's, because we're talking about mushrooms being helpful for PTSD and anxiety and depression, which often are kind of, I don't want to say the causes, but can help lead to things like opioid addiction. Because there's a lot more going on, So it's all kind of part and parcel of the same thing, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so
it works for PTSD too. I feel like it's all rolled in. PTSD, it's almost like that's the, it's like depression is part of PTSD, anxiety is part of PTSD. That's kind of what I've noticed. And Kevin Matthews, the guy that started the Decriminalized Denver initiative, he used mushrooms to get over his PTSD from being a veteran of war.
Even people with migraine headaches, cluster headaches, tension headaches.
Lots of people have success with those headaches.
Success with mushrooms and low dosages and stuff like that. I mean, myself, suffering from cluster headaches from fracturing my skull and breaking my neck, I had certain severe injuries, and actually a couple years after my accident, I started taking some low doses of mushrooms and realized the medicinal effects behind it was just extreme for me too.
Nothing else works for cluster headaches, that's right?
It got rid of those headaches.
Yeah, nothing else works for it but mushrooms.
Nothing else worked for it. I used to leave my truck running in the middle of the road back in 2007 because I was injured at work, and I remember I hit my head on the second floor, fractured my skull, broke my neck, and I had headaches, and that's down. It was in 2008. It was actually at 4:20 when I took the mushrooms, and I lost my head.
Wow.
So
I mean, it all, you know what I mean? So
yeah. Healing medicines.
I know that a lot of the time when dealing with things like depression and anxiety, I mean, of course, these things are more difficult when you're depressed and anxious, but a lot of the time when you're healing, it's good to do things like, exercise and eating healthier and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, when you're doing things like eating 6 chocolate bars a day, that's not ideal. I'm curious because I know some people in plant medicine are really big at looking at diet and exercise and overall lifestyle when they're working on this kind of situation too. Is that something that you guys kind of keep in mind when you're working, or is that something that you had in mind as well?
And Adrienne, throughout the process, she was getting sort of guidance from people about certain things that could help. One thing that she did quite a lot of was doing like the sensory deprivation float tank therapy, just over at Float House in Gastown.
I was like, when they first opened, they brought me in there.
I haven't done it yet, but
you gotta go float.
I haven't tried it either. It looks
gotta go
fun.
float.
I love to
Yeah, float. It's really like for me. They gave me. I went in there because of my injuries once again, and it gives you a sense of relaxation, but it's a different relaxation, and if you can, enjoy it.
Adrienne went in there on some mushrooms once too, so that was a
I've heard
That's what I was gonna say.
a lot of fun.
I didn't want to say it, but you said it.
And she was like an hour late too. We were waiting outside with her with some cameras, and she was like an hour late, and then she came back in. She's like, "Oh, hey."
Before the film, had you guys tried? Now I know Tyler had smoked a lot of pot before the film because Tyler actually is one of my very good friends from high school, and the first person who ever gave me pot. I remember we were in the hallway, and I first became friends with you and our other friend Mike Tripp.
Look what you did.
I know, it's crazy. You created a monster for real, though. And actually, it didn't take long because you're like, hey, you want to smoke? Have you ever thought about smoking some pot? And I was like, I thought maybe you were like trying to make fun of me, or like I didn't know what you were saying. I was like, yeah, I'd smoke pot. And you're like, let's get some. And so we just got some for the first we ever had, and we paid like $35 or $40 an eighth for it or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
And smoked with 4 of us at like a little park by my house and got super ripped, and it was fucking hilarious.
What was it that made you guys want to smoke pot?
I think rap music probably.
Just like teenage boredom.
Yeah, teenage boredom, definitely part of it. Yeah.
Really,
Yeah, we didn't really have much else. It's Nanaimo in Harewood, so there was like limited things to really do.
Island. Yeah.
I mean, there's always reasons, but I know that you always talk about how you guys.
We did listen to rap music, and they did talk about weed a lot in it. So Snoop and Dre and stuff like that.
Yeah.
This is like Indo. What's this Indo? So, but mushrooms. Have you guys tried mushrooms before the movie, or used any of it as a self therapy in any way or anything? Or had you ever even tried mushrooms before?
I never did, man. I heard actually like the bad trip sort of made me not try them because I had a good enough time on weed, and then like as I got into my 20s, I stopped smoking weed because like people were starting to get real chill with it, and I was like always the same, man. Like even today, that's why I'm not smoking.
Right.
I'm way too funny.
Don't you feel a little bit?
Right now.
I'm a little bit high right now, actually. This is the first time I've smoked weed in a few years, probably. I'm a little high.
But yeah, no, I heard some funny stories, and like a guy named Kevin, I heard that he like ate his sunglasses with peanut butter, eating
That's
mushrooms.
actually true.
And I was like,
yeah, shout out to
he's
Kevin
a crazy
John.
dude. Yeah.
Love Kev. Yeah.
Yeah.
My world, man. That was Kevin. Yeah.
So I was like,
but he was crazy.
I was like,
and a good guy.
I don't want to do that. And then you hear other weird things. I'm like, I'm good. Like little booze, whatever. Just like I found a good rhythm that I could always have fun. And so it wasn't until like only a couple years ago, and totally by coincidence, it was a few months before this whole thing went down, with learning about the medicinal benefits and then having the conversation with Adrienne and then starting this film. So that was the first time in 2017 that I tried mushrooms, and like I had to be peer pressured by my friends.
And have you tried shrooms before then?
Yeah, I grew up on Salt Spring Island, and so it was a little bit of everything floating around back there. But I remember being like a teenager, and I'd take mushrooms, and I'd just be like, my brain would just be like some sort of like new understanding or about the world or some sort of more positive way of thinking or being. But I never really put two and two together because I also had kind of a couple times where you take it and it's like the wrong setting. You're at a concert and somebody like it, you know, he starts yelling at you or attacking you and you just freak out because you're on psychedelics and someone is being aggressive towards you, right? And so you think like, oh, I don't know if I like mushrooms all the time. And only when I heard later, sort of around this time that Tyler heard about mushrooms, that people were doing it therapeutically in that context, I thought to myself, that makes a lot of sense, because I think there's a lot that you can learn from mushrooms, and if you're doing it in the right context.
Yeah. Very cool.
Every person that's done mushrooms since we've been doing this in the therapeutic context has said like that everybody should try it.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if it's just one time, it's such a super interesting experience when you do like the sleep mask.
I'm curious about
when
that.
you go within.
Me too.
It was more of an internal journey. Do you know what I mean?
That's what I need to do.
And
But
when
if somebody, I'm going to ask this question because I'm sure some of our viewers are wondering too, and I am. If somebody is fairly experienced with mushrooms, like I can take a good amount of mushrooms, and I'm pretty comfortable. I've had a couple bad trips, and I think I'm pretty good. Is it something where I could, on my own, put on a sleep mask and
for sure.
and play the playlist? You don't think it would be?
It's not advisable, but you
it
could
would
do
be.
it.
It's somehow better when you're being supported.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just that somebody's there, so that you don't have to deal with anything outside the mask and what you're going on at that time. Do you know what I mean? And so that's the kind of support that, and it's not that they're a guide or anything like that.
So you could just get
it could be that you need a drink of water or something.
Yeah, it could just be something that simple, right?
So it puts you in a better state of mind. Somehow,
maybe
knowing that you're being supported in that way, instead of just doing it solo.
Yeah, and if anybody though is going through some very intense personal trauma, working through like a serious anxiety or depression issue, like it would not be advisable to take that by yourself, most likely. Although, if it was between that and going and getting fentanyl-laced heroin.
Or just like committing suicide.
If it was your last option
There's a lot
to
of people,
either commit suicide or do that, then obviously it's
there's
better
a lot
than
of people
suicide.
that I think like if you're gonna go shoot up a school, like that person would probably benefit from 5 to 10 grams of mushrooms. No matter who's around. Could be a team working with them, or they could just do them by themselves. And it's they're gonna work through some shit, and they're gonna feel love and connection. Unless, I mean, like not in all cases.
Sometimes things are hardwired.
But yeah, like why is somebody going and shooting out? They probably got picked on. They hate these kids. Like like life. There's no future. They can't see the end of the tunnel. And it's just fucking stupid high school at the end of the day. And if they had that experience, they'd probably be able to just like chill out and get through it and realize they can like go on and lead a happy life and leave the really like the bullies are the losers in many cases. So whatever's going on.
When you get older. As you get older, as you get out of school, it's the bullies who are the losers and we're the idiots and go nowhere in life and stuff like that.
I mean, they probably have their own trauma that they need to deal with, and that's why they're doing it anyways. Like it's in a way, that's why when people are finished doing it, they say everybody should try that. It's like for everybody. It's not just people who are like really sick with this or that or the other. It's like everybody could benefit from it.
You gotta start growing mushrooms. I'm always like growing your own weed, but you can actually get in there. You can get all your mushroom kits. You can go to Shroom Box. You go to mushroom. There's all these different places.
Yeah, 7 West Tasting.
We sell the kits in the store.
Kits are downstairs.
We sell the kits downstairs.
It's funny because last week when I was here and you weren't, I was downstairs selling the mushroom store kits, and I was explaining to the guy how great it was.
We don't? What somebody said we don't sell?
No, I was.
Oh, okay.
I was
we try and get Mark in here.
There you go. And also, I just want to say Dana's website, the Medicinal Mushroom Dispensary.
There you go.
Go to mushroomdispensary.com if you want access to microdoses of psilocybin.
In fact, I got to cut you off here as well. Dana's actually going to be at our premiere. He's going to be doing a special announcement as well. He's one of the sponsors. The Medicinal Mushroom Dispensary is one of the sponsors of our event. And also, through our website as well, you can purchase or get connected with Dana. So through dosemovie.com, you can get connected with Dana and get microdoses of psilocybin mushrooms for use in a medicinal context. They're not just giving them away kind of to everybody. You got to have kind of like someone with cannabis. You have to have some sort of doctor's referral, and you need to go through a they're not giving them away; they're for sale.
Right.
But what we're saying is you need to go through sort of like an approval process where they see that you're using it in the right context, right? So that's available at
And I think he is
dosemedia.com.
doing the pricing based on some people's situation. So somebody
sure.
is on the downtown side and they want
he
help.
spoke
He's
at
not gonna
City
get
Hall
charged.
and he said that like obviously there's the way he's doing his model of this dispensary is that so some people that can't afford will be able to get access to it, of course.
Yeah, Dana would be here on the show today, but he's preoccupied, unfortunately.
Yeah.
He's here pretty much every week, so.
And I think going back to like people, doing this themselves, or that's something they could do incrementally. Do you know what I mean? Start small, and then increase that over time. If they want to have more.
Well, I do agree though that it's very different. Like if somebody's struggling with anxiety and they do like a gram, like their anxiety could just be exacerbated, and they'll be like, "Oh, that was a bad trip," and they won't ever want to try like 5 or 6 or 7 grams.
So you're saying
but
sometimes
when you try,
a little bit more can be a little bit easier.
when you try the high dose, like you don't get a chance to ruminate on those thoughts as much. They'll just be like reset and blasted.
But the higher the dose you go, then you are running into more a higher probability or risk of things becoming negative. Do you know what I mean?
Obviously, we are.
And that's when you want somebody there.
The point of this film,
and that's why it's also good to work up to.
Mushrooms can be scary sometimes.
Yeah,
like of all drugs I've taken.
But there's all different types of mushrooms.
And I've taken acid and mushrooms lots of times, and the mushrooms for me are the ones that are a little bit more scary, and I think it's because they're opening something up about you, and it kind of reminds you of the things that you want to be accomplishing or something.
Jer always says, I don't like to do mushrooms because mushroom makes you feel like you should have called grandma last
I
week.
feel like I haven't called my mom, I feel bad about all the things that I should be doing or something.
But the thing is, sometimes I like that.
Thing.
Well, it's a messenger. It's the messenger saying,
So
call your mom.
That's when they say that like addiction is a product of disconnection. And so mushrooms make you feel connected, and like that feeling, I don't know whether you did or not, but like, hey, calling your mom's not a bad thing.
Yeah, no,
you haven't talked to her in a while.
That's not a bad idea.
Right?
That's just
For me, it's I always need to do more yoga. I'm always like, why did I stop doing it this month? I've been so good. Like little things,
So then
and
it's also paying attention and implementing what they say. Do you know what I mean?
For real.
See, that's more. I've done trips by myself, and like it's me and Jared have hung out, and I'm just on mushrooms, and he's just laughing at me. Yeah. And like I usually do that, and if it's like us hanging out listening to music, and I feel like doing yoga, I'm just gonna start doing yoga. Mushrooms. But I've never done an experience where I'm like submerging myself or like in some way, like removing my vision or listening to a specific playlist.
Sounds cool.
And I think that would be an interesting experience.
So it's quite different, because like normally then. Because then our ego or our brain is engaged in whatever is in our field of vision, which then totally changes what would be going on if you were not behind,
Yeah.
Well, my favorite part of mushrooms was always when you fall asleep, when you close your eyes. So I feel like I probably would enjoy it.
And they use them in different parts of the world like that. I think there's an area in Mexico where they might do it annually. It's something that you do by yourself. You go into a room, darken it right out, probably remove sharp objects, and take a large amount of mushrooms, and that's the experience that you would go through.
That's
very cool. Yeah, no, I think these things can be. I mean, it has both. It's
that show the different trips and stuff like that. When they eat something from the ground, I think they were referring to the mushrooms or natural cannabis or something like that.
Yeah, well, and it seems like it's not just something new either. It seems like cultures have been using this for a long time for these types of purposes.
Oh, yeah, sure.
We always have fun around Christmas time when we talk about the Siberian shaman. Santa Claus happens to seem to be a cousin or something, wearing his red and white outfit like the Amanita mushroom, and the reindeer who dig through the snow to get the Amanita, and that's a very interesting thing. But it seems like a lot of cultures have sort of discovered this in the past.
Yeah, so everyone's clear, the reindeer needs to eat the mushrooms and then urinate.
That's right.
In order for humans to then drink the urine and become high. That's like
Because the amanita is poisonous without some sort of filtration.
That's the Mario Brothers mushroom, the amanita, right? That's what they based
that one grows
on.
around here.
Yeah. You can you can purchase it downstairs. You can purchase the amanitas downstairs in the Urban Shaman, I believe.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They work on different receptors. It's more on the GABA receptor, I believe. Which is
and you need a heavy.
like
you need to
alcohol.
really you have to find a way of extracting it. Like the
I was just gonna say. So if you buy the shaman downstairs, you just have to find like
you have to take a walk.
Yeah, it has to be a reindeer that urinates it specifically. No other animal will do, right?
That's good to know.
But it's funny how much of some of our legends sort of come from these weird esoteric things that we don't necessarily understand. Like even the socks, the picking of the mushrooms with the sack over the shoulder and coming down, because of course they live in the snow, they come down through the top of the house into their underground igloo. It's like coming down the chimney. It's funny stuff. Yeah, and if you look at a lot of European older like Christmas cards or things, they always have Amanita muscaria mushrooms.
And fairies and stuff like that.
The elves everywhere.
I just set aside at my grandma's parents' house that just these little candle holders, Christmas candle holders from Germany, antique ones, and they're just little tiny Amanita mushrooms. I'm like, I'm taking those. I'm sorry, those are too cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Well,
Jeremy, we can get Mark Howard on.
Oh, okay.
Anytime, I think.
Cool.
If you want to try.
Yeah, we should bring Mark on. Now we have by Skype Mark Howard, he does Iboga. He provides to people, right?
Yeah. So in the film, he's the main person that worked with Adrienne with Iboga.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, did we lose him? Are you there, Mark?
Yeah.
Hey, man, we can hear you, but we can't see you. Can you hear us? Okay.
There you are.
Oh, there
I can hear
you
you
are.
guys.
Beautiful.
Yo.
Now we can see you. So, Mark, how you doing? It's good to have you on here. We're just patching you in. We're kind of mid discussion here.
Okay.
Good to have you here. But we were just talking about the uses of different drugs to help people in all these different contexts. But you're an Iboga provider, and of course you're in the film here. How did you first start getting involved with Iboga, and maybe you can tell us a bit about some of the positive success stories and experiences you've had with it?
Well, I got involved. I'm a success story from it because basically, I had a bit of trouble dealing with, alcohol and cocaine at one point in my life growing up. And then I kind of just was kind of running astray. And then I was about to have a child and I decided, it was time to sort of break that chain. And I wanted to make a big change in my life. And I was sitting with a friend at a bar and he told me if I've ever heard of this plant called Iboga. It can help people with addictions. And so then I researched and went to Costa Rica and sat with the shaman there, and basically that's where my journey began.
Very cool. And now, how many...
Mark, your camera work, buddy.
Yeah, we're trying to make the camera a little wider there. I was trying to... That.
There we go.
Okay, don't move.
So, now... Yeah, this is obviously there. In the film they show a bit about how this all works and stuff, but this is a very sort of sacred thing, and I like seeing that sort of side of it. It seemed like there was something deep going on, like more than just this physical sort of body change or something. It's kind of getting at the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, man.
No, it's definitely so in Africa, when we do training with Iboga, there's basically two worlds that the Africans, the Bwiti tradition that we study. There's two worlds that we live in as people, and one is the physical, and the other one is the spiritual. And they actually say that the spiritual world really runs the show. So when we're lifting an addiction off of somebody and freeing them from those physical chains. It's kind of like Star Wars, I don't know, one of the last ones I remember when they kind of have one of the good Star Troopers on the run, and the starship is sitting there shooting the escape trooper spaceship forever but they have a force field. So when someone comes in with an addiction, it's kind of like you have to kind of beat that force field down. It takes, in Adrian's case, took quite a while. But finally, once you beat that physical force field down, you get the body alleviated of the acute addiction. Then what you do is you use this medicine to take it to the next level and really get inside someone's spiritual self, their soul, and really understand the makings of who they are, where they come from, and where they want to go. Understand who they are as a person and spiritually how they're connected to the world. And that's where a lot of the really big healing takes place. Like someone might be not really connecting with themselves, not really like themselves. They might have a bad opinion about themselves. They don't might care about themselves. They might be reckless with themselves. You lift off that force field and that addiction and really get someone to understand how important it is to love themselves and be connected to their own souls. Then they start taking care of themselves in a different way that they never had before. So to quickly wrap this up, I've seen stories, miraculous stories, like of healing with this over the last 8 years, like unbelievable, like stuff that would just not be believed in our normal culture and our society. Like if you talk to some people, they just don't understand the amount of healing that can take place when you really go in there and just nail the spot, and reconnect someone back with themselves.
Well, that sounds amazing. And now, would you suggest that people who, maybe if you don't even have depression or anxiety or PTSD or something like that, just, people who might not be unhealthy, doing the treatments, it sounds like it would be something beneficial for everybody.
Yeah, like when you go to Africa, it's a party. You know what I mean? Like, 420, we sit, we smoke together, we can talk, we can open up with each other, we can allow ourselves to sort of drift into a different altered space. In Africa, it's full tilt boogie. They use this medicine to send it to the next level. They got a question, they don't go to the Bible, they don't go to the religion, they take the medicine and they go and find out for themselves. So what they do is like, it's a full-blown party. It opens up and you dance, you want to express your soul to the fullest. So it helps anyone, even if you're in the top of your game, this medicine, when done right, it'll help you connect with yourself, with your soul, and really give you the coordinates to key back into that guidance system that we all have inside, the internet, like the real internet, and really like come up with how to take it to the next level. Like if you're taking it to the next level, do some Iboga and take it to the next level. So there's no real cap on it. It's just it's really good for solving problems, obviously. So that's why addictions are at the front. That's the front problem. That's blocking everything. But there's no limit to where you can go with this medicine. And if you want to connect with death, even, like, and be ready for anything, and like eliminate fear, and like get some clarity around what you want to manifest next into your life, or what type of love you want to call and bring into your life or be a part of it. It's for everything.
Very cool. Now, you're the co-founder of IbogaSoul Shamanic Healing. Can you tell us about that, Mark, and what you guys do?
Well, IbogaSoul is basically sort of self-descriptive. I was really big in working with like anything. I was at a point 4 or 5 years ago where I would be like, send me your hardest people. And, I work with a lot of psychotherapists or psychiatrists or just parents or people or whatever. And just doing whatever and really like getting someone clean.
Uh-oh. It looks like we have a bit of a technical difficulty. Oh, there we
go.
go.
It's back.
Yeah.
I think we got you back.
With that. So we're really, at IbogaSoul, what we do is we like to take a person right now, find out where they're at. If it's an addiction, we have a different way to send them towards like more of a Gareth style, where it's Iboga to alleviate their physical addiction. We're not doing it like sort of like we did in the movie with Adrian. But what we do is we offer a space where someone can really like analyze and look into their life and get to know what life is and who they are and what they want. And then we offer the medicine in a really safe space in a traditional way where we can open them up through the talks and get them to, when the medicine starts working, get them to journey with their own soul and really discover and communicate with themselves and the ancestors to really get the proper answers they need to move forward in life.
Cool, man. Well, really appreciate you talking to us about this today. And cool stuff in the movie too, like just the process and everything. It's very interesting to see how it all works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is this stuff offered downstairs in John?
No, it's not. No.
It's dangerous. Like, just to reiterate, you need to get EKG done or ECG, the heart check one. You need blood work.
There's a distinction.
Liver function.
Yeah.
You need a bunch of like tests done, and then those have to be checked by a doctor or an RN or someone who is familiar with that, and so there's like a safety protocol, and especially if you're on benzodiazepines or methadone, stuff like that.
Let's be clear. So if you take a bunch of mushrooms, like they won't physically harm you. Like maybe you might go into a psychotic state in certain very, 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 very unlikely circumstances. So that's why we're looking for safe access to these medicines and not for people to take them improperly, right? But the distinction is with something like Iboga, it could actually kill you.
Yeah. Okay. Very rarely though, and if it's done professionally by
not
people
kill you
that know
with
what they're doing,
people taking care of you, and doing the proper tests. But if you buy some off the internet,
that's why
take some,
Urban Shaman won't
so
be
that's why
selling
Urban
it.
Shaman.
I'm just curious. Right?
That would be different.
Well,
kind of what.
And Mark, is that's a service that you are offering to the public, or how? Like if people wanted to get that, go through this, how do they access these services?
So for right now, they would write us at info@IbogaSoul, and I have a 26-year RN nurse who's converted his life over to working with Iboga and Iboga. Gareth worked with him quite a bit, and his life, and we'll take them through we have a very stringent health questionnaire online, which asks all sorts of questions, medically, spiritually, physically, and then so we get a good idea there. Then we get ECGs just to make sure their heart good, mostly. To see how fast their heart rhythms are and what type of pulse and health they have. And then we do extensive blood tests. So people can write into us, and then we start evaluating kind of in our own heads what direction they really need to go in. Ultimately, it's just really to get them to be in that experience when they take the medicine, to be in a safe place to really open up and discover who they truly are and like what life is really about, for them. And just really get some real good, some peace of mind, to slow the mind down from all this negative thinking and start sorting out what it is you really want from your life, and then having the confidence and the love for yourself to go get it. So that's basically what we do. We offer full week retreats where someone can just come and, really lay everything down, put all the beliefs at the doors, put all the religions at the doors, put everything at the door, and come in and really open up to finding out and discovering who they are and really taking their life to the next level.
Passy.
Yeah, that's very cool. So you guys have shown this. How many film festivals have you guys gone to now?
5 today.
5.
We were in Billings, Montana today, and then we have 6 coming up.
Yeah.
Plus this showing.
6 more coming up.
6 more, yeah.
So 11 total. Wow.
Yeah, and then we're trying to just get it into cities, and there'll be more film festivals hopefully that we get into in a theatrical setting, because it's really cool to watch it with a group of people that are sort of interested in this topic and or share the same sort of philosophy about it's about healing, and it doesn't really matter what, even if you're abstinence only, in AA for example, everybody should be entitled to what works for them. And then so it just so happens that this is something that worked for Adrienne, and certainly is something that could work for a lot of people in her similar situation. And after watching the film, you can identify, because when we started with Adrienne, we didn't know anything, so it took us a while to really get traction on what to do for her. And it's all about education now, because there's people that you see this sort of harrowing journey with all these ups and downs in the film, that what Adrienne went through. And I think that if Nick and I knew more, there's a lot of steps we would have skipped, and we would have gone straight to somebody like Gareth or somebody like Mark first, knowing that opioids and Iboga or Ibogaine are sort of the best thing to manage that.
But it's interesting filmmaking to watch that sort of process happen.
Yeah. It made for an entertaining film. Yeah, it could have been a shorter,
just 1 week movie, right?
Just there you go. It's a short film.
What you've done is not only learning with yourself, but learning with. I haven't seen it. I can't wait to watch it. I'm gonna go to the showing, of course. Now I'll see it there. But by the sounds of it, you're so many people are touched, and every family's touched in some way of an addiction or some kind of a way over there. this movie's going to touch them in so many different ways, and people will be able to relate to it by, just by listening to you guys, I can relate to so many.
It definitely, I think it relates to like every single person that I've ever met, and everybody knows somebody.
Somebody has been, every family has
struggled
somebody.
a little bit.
Exactly.
And how has reaction been at the festivals?
Awesome.
Good.
Yeah,
it's
awesome.
been like standing ovations, and
we got lots of great crowds.
Yeah, packed audience. 2 awards now. We got a recognition in Knoxville as well.
Cool.
So we won the Audience Award in Melbourne,
Yeah.
and then recognition in Knoxville as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to just kind of accidentally stumble across this whole thing, make a film. It's so much like time and energy, and then now Nick and I are seeing the results, and it's cool because I know like Mark and these guys, it's like they're happy. It's not a shit film, it's a good film.
And also we've got people,
it's a good story, and it worked out.
And importantly, we've got people blowing up our email box all the time saying, oh my gosh, this film saved my life, this film saved my sister's life. Learning about this medicine led me down the better path, so like that's the most important thing.
There's one lady in San Diego, and she caught wind of the trailer last year, and she hadn't seen the film yet, but she watched the trailer, and it like really hit home for her because her daughter was struggling with addiction, and so she like just Googled and did some research and found a way to get her daughter help, and her daughter now has been several months sober. And like living a good life down in Florida. Really she was in San Diego, so yeah, it's like.
Now you guys talked about how you're going to distribute the film or plan to, or you're trying to get it out there to more theaters and stuff. What about Netflix or one of these services? Have you guys?
I mean,
how
I
does
think
that work?
all in time. We haven't had a direct discussion with Netflix yet, but.
Something like Netflix would be awesome, though, right? So
everyone
can see it. We need this as many people as possible to see the film.
Yeah.
And that's why we kind of spend so much time to try to make it interesting for you guys to want to watch, and someone's just sitting there and they're just popping their popcorn. They're just like, what's going to happen?
Everybody needs to see this
They learn
film.
something through it.
Yeah, it's people who are going to see this, they want to see it, and they are learning from it, instead of, like you say, sitting at home just eating some popcorn, and...
These are revolutionary ideas, though, and like getting it into one of these in front of a lot of people would be a really amazing thing, because they need to see this movie. Everybody needs to see this movie.
We have to go through the film festival thing first, because that's how you raise awareness, and if you win an award or 2 or hopefully more, then people will want to watch it more. That's just how it is. People need to be told what to like in this day and age.
It's true.
We already know that we're supposed to like all the superhero movies, and for the most part we do. But there's other movies out there as well. There's good documentaries out there, and this is one of them.
And so currently the Canadian premiere is happening here in Vancouver at the Vogue. For people that don't live in Vancouver, what will be there? Do you know when they'll get a chance to see it, or how do they see the movie if they can?
I mean, we're hoping to move like quickly and efficiently towards like theatrical screenings in other cities, but that's still obviously going to be limited. And then obviously if like Netflix may or may not come, it's really like a crapshoot. We've heard many things about it, and so like we're yet to have our direct conversation because we're still going through this process, and also like Netflix would rather look at a film that people are getting behind and supporting, and seeing that there's sold out shows and they're winning awards and stuff like that, than just some random film that didn't even get into a film festival or whatever.
Exactly.
So
maybe
like,
nobody cares about it.
essentially, everyone's got to go to our website that's interested, go to dosedmovie.com and sign up for our mailing list right there, because then you'll be made aware of when the film's coming to your city. There's a lot of cities on our world tour coming up, and still more being added all the time, as much as we can. And so then also, of course, you'll be notified whenever it's available to stream online.
That's awesome. Yeah, I did see on the website you can just enter your stuff in right in front of there.
I'm totally going to check it out now.
Yeah. Now, about the legal status of these drugs. Obviously, in Canada, mushrooms are still illegal. Those guys right there.
They can grow.
But they don't really
show these mushrooms off
You just
again.
got to tell people where they can go and pick their own
Nick, show
mushrooms.
those mushrooms off again.
These are illegal.
Those are illegal. But is the Iboga? What's the status of that plant?
Yeah, that was in a unlicensed natural health product before, but Health Canada has since moved that into a Schedule 6.
Okay.
So it's an odd situation. I think that they've kind of done that because they can't really say that there's no medical value to Ibogaine or Iboga, but at the same time they probably want to control the use of that, so that's kind of an effort to stop people from working with it.
Unfortunately, so they seem to be going in a negative direction then, rather than a positive.
Yeah. And it's kind of baffling at this point with the opioid crisis going on, and then the liberal government saying they're going to pull out all the stops and do everything they possibly can, and hands down, Ibogaine is the number one drug that can be used in the fight against the opioid crisis. But
it's really stupid and frustrating because the politicians' excuse is easy for Ibogaine and Iboga, and they'll just say, "Oh, it's dangerous. Like it can kill people, so like it can't be easily accessed." But if it was easily accessed, it could be safely accessed.
There's so many drugs that are part of medical whatever that can hurt you if used improperly.
Yeah, and ranked as the safest drug, even safer than aspirin, is mushrooms, psilocybin, and it's like, so if the safest drug is like the politicians, they have like the same reasoning for both things, but like they're trying to say, oh, Ibogaine's dangerous, so no. But like they don't really know what to say about mushrooms. But it's like, maybe, I don't know, it's like they don't know, they don't go to the internet, they don't have access to the internet or something. It's like really
also Ibogaine could be used in a way slowly over
it's deceiving. We just moved it over because we need to get a wire shot. You're still in the shot.
He is on TV.
Over a period it could be used over a period of time, and the establishment doesn't really like hallucinogens. Do you know what I mean? It's beyond their fucking scope of keeping everything in a box, right? So Ibogaine can be used over a period of time as well. It doesn't have to be done in one big trip. It can actually be used much more safely and less, in a hallucinogenic kind of manner over a period of time. And you can totally get people off of opiates.
Well, and maybe this is a good question for Mark. Mark, is that something that factors into this? Are you afraid of any kind of enforcement against what you guys are doing? Or have you heard of any kind of enforcement against this stuff?
I don't know. You know what? Like, I've been part of the MMAR and all that stuff for a long time too. So it was, when Conroy, when that was one and everything, that showed me, kind of showed me what can happen. I sat with Robert Laurie one night at dinner, and he was like, we were kind of talking about it, and he's like, just like, look at the shit I've had to go through to get, this stuff. He goes, and that doesn't even cause you to have like heart problems or been shown to have difficulties with hearts like Iboga has. So we're up against, we'll see. But this movie is really showing what's possible. So as long as you can show some things that are possible, then we can work together to make it happen. As far as I just know that we know someone that there's been deaths, and so that those people they got themselves in a hot water for sure. We could go on a bunch about it, but one of the reasons why I treated Adrienne and it didn't get done kind of with Ibogaine was because I have sort of a pastoral medical association license, and it's sort of a license that says I can use holistic medicine. But I'm not to tell someone to stop taking conventional medicine, and I'm not to prescribe conventional medicine. I'm sort of doing the work of the Lord. I'm almost like a pastor, but a shaman who's using God's given gifts to heal God's given people. So constitutionally, it's almost our right. They made it illegal to import. They pretty much have said that you got to be a doctor to prescribe Ibogaine or its analogs or its derivatives, which pretty much covers it all. We're kind of like in a very unknown area, right? It's kind of a race against to show what we can do till we can't do it here, and then we'll figure it out. They can't, there's such a crisis right now, and this is a tough, but Gareth said in the movie, like, what are they going to kick my door down and arrest me for trying to save someone's life? So, but it is dangerous. It has to be really, it's like Gareth is saying, you don't have to give it all at once, right? Like, there's ways where we can do it very smart just to get people off these opioids. And then we'll work on the psychospiritual part later in Canada, or whether that has to go somewhere else. We'll see.
Yeah, I guess it takes a bit of courage to do all of these things, and that's part of the activism that goes along with this. It's the, yeah, like you say, marijuana side, we know that one quite well, but I think
it's kind of similar in a sense with stuff like this. It's illegal, but so is fentanyl on the downtown east side, which is in the heroin and cocaine and in
methamphetamine.
It's in everything. Benzodiazepines are in everything as well. It's all illegal.
Yeah.
And some of it is really, really damaging and destructive and physically, whereas this stuff is helpful and can actually counteract that. So like, it shouldn't really be lumped together. And also, like, I mean, it's been shown time and time again that if you decriminalize drugs, all drugs, even heroin and stuff like that, that society will get healthier. And so you stop policing and punishing the people that need the most help, and then you can transfer those resources to like recovery and rehabilitation, which is what they really need. And they need a clean supply, because if you're physically hooked on heroin and you need heroin, and then there's fentanyl in it, like that's such a scary mystery for somebody, and they might be trying to get out, but they're stuck. So instead of policing them and punishing them, help them, and they might go on to do good things. They probably will.
I think it's only a matter of time. As the crisis gets worse and the body count goes up and up and up, then also public awareness, like as people are more aware that there are substances that could help, then the conversation will change. I truly believe that eventually Ibogaine will be embraced somehow by the medical community. It's just that all of this shit happens from the ground up. Do you know what I mean?
Has it been embraced anywhere else? I mean, I know we were talking about in overseas and stuff. Like, are there other places in the world that are really using this and instituting it in any way?
Portugal?
There's some places where medical tourism, like most of the treatment places are in Mexico. Simply because in the States it's a Schedule 1, here it's a Schedule 6. Or it used to be an unlicensed natural health product. And so most of it's going on in Mexico, a bit in the Bahamas, South Africa, a little bit in Europe, Portugal, so it's kind of places where it can go on. And I believe that there's a study going on in Brazil this year with Ibogaine and cocaine and alcohol.
Wow.
So,
cool.
It's, anecdotally, they know that it does what it does. You know what I mean? Hands down, there's nothing better for, as a tool for addiction.
There's certain things when people talk about like, oh, this helped me, right? This medicine helped me. It could be more like placebo effect or something like that. But when somebody has a physical dependence to an opioid, where every single day if they don't take their opioids or methadone, they feel sick and they start vomiting and shaking or whatever, and then they take Iboga, and then that no longer happens, and they don't need opioids anymore. It's like, it works.
And it's not just that the acute withdrawal syndrome that people find really difficult to get through, but the Ibogaine holds people for up to 3 or 4 months, even longer, depending on how much we can get into people. And that, because it's the post-acute withdrawal syndrome that gets people. They can get through the kick, and then what comes afterwards, that malaise, the insomnia, just depression, crushing depression, is normally what gets, people can bear it for a certain period of time, and then they just want a breath of fresh air, so they might use once thinking, and then they rewire themselves, and then that's why people are continuously caught in that cycle. And often when you speak to somebody who's been dealing with opioids for a long period of time, it's not like, how long have you used for? Often it's like, how long did I not use for? Like I had a clean time in 2009 to 2010, and then I was clean again for 3 months. And that's normally a lot of the patterns that we see with opioid users. So this is really an opportunity for people to actually break that cycle.
No, and we talked a little bit about mushroom studies, but on the Iboga side, are there people doing the clinical research or trials on these things, or collecting the anecdotal stuff?
There isn't really the incentive from pharmaceutical companies to kind of look into this, like, Suboxone and methadone is a cash cow. Thank you very much.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And
so they're just switching you onto their other drug.
And I think to bring a drug to market is like $1 billion or something or other. So, and there isn't really an incentive there, because then that would be something that would
to cure instead of
treatment. And the pharmaceutical industry isn't about curing people.
Are there any groups out there that are attempting to collect any of the anecdotal information or studies about that? Or, I mean, there must be some advocacy groups, like MAPS, I guess.
I thought MAPS was actually trying to get a clinical trial going at one of the universities near San Francisco.
Yeah, I think
but I don't, like, I remember seeing that and then, like, not really looking into it too much. But always thinking I want to go back and check, like, where are they at? Because I think they were trying to raise a few $1 million to get the first phase going, and then there's always phase 2 and phase 3, and like I don't know all the details. We'd have to ask Rick Doblin, I guess, but like, what is the end cost of that, and then what company can patent it and make the money back? And the answer is like, well, I guess it's not patentable, right?
Well, it's a plant product. They'll probably try to synthesize it in some way or something, right?
Even Ibogaine, though, it's still not patentable because it's too old. It's not a new discovery.
But I think they're trying to work on what is it, MC18, which is...
They always find a way to monetize it, though, unfortunately. Like, I don't know if you know much about ketamine clinics for depression and mental health. They're around in the States, and even Donald Trump just endorsed them to help with veterans' PTSD and stuff like that. But they're not using ketamine, which is really cheap and works, very well. They're using S-ketamine, and that's very expensive.
And that's the one Trump's endorsed.
And it works a little bit less good than regular ketamine.
Much less good.
Much less good?
From what I've heard.
Okay.
Wow. It costs more.
Yes.
Oh, it costs like 100 times more or something.
And is it a proprietary thing that somebody designed or something?
Yeah, it's just like a little bit different. It's like not quite the same molecule.
Right. They just switch a couple things around, and then they can patent it.
And then they patent it, and then they give it to people, and it works less good.
Well, I mean, hopefully it works at least a little bit, and maybe that'll encourage them to legalize ketamine, or I mean, is ketamine not a horse tranquilizer, so it's legal for some uses?
They're able to use both. Yeah.
Right.
It's an anesthetic.
Is that
it's also a powerful psychedelic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Very good.
It slows your brain down.
Yeah.
Never done it.
Yeah.
No? I haven't done much.
I had a pretty profound experience when I was on ketamine once that I really enjoyed.
I learned different ways of dealing with pain, so I tried different substances and stuff like that. Ways of, hey, this works for that one.
Well, that would work for pain, I think, probably. Yeah. It's like super numb you out and take you into just wildly dissociative state.
Yes.
I guess the reason why I was sort of asking
something
about...
you can't do in function.
Sure, at certain dosages.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
so
often
it's always looking at functionability, and that's where marijuana comes in such a better play with everything, because
sure.
Didn't they try to patent like synthetic cannabis as well, or
Sativex? Yeah.
They've
Marinol is the other one.
The THC molecules, U.S. government stuff like that. So.
By the way,
it's already in different.
My friend showed me a joint that he bought from, I think, like Shoppers or London Drugs or something, like the legal Canadian.
No, they can't sell there yet.
Oh, okay. So was it at a legal dispensary?
You can buy it at Shoppers now.
Sells medical marijuana.
I didn't realize
really?
Online, 1,000%.
I didn't know.
They do.
Yes, they have a medical program online in Ontario.
Wow.
They go online, you can put on anything. They have doctors, the whole thing, and everything. So it's a big thing. I actually have it in my phone. Some past pictures. They released that last year.
I knew they were going to.
They have medical marijuana online with Shoppers, and they have doctors, and they're looking at different. Yeah, it's actually a good program. They've worked on it quite extensively because they're the first big pharmaceutical company.
And then the LPs are supplying it.
I'm not against Shoppers doing it as long as the weed is good, but it's not, unfortunately.
Dude, they went so overkill on the packaging though.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's like bigger than my phone for one joint.
supply chain.
It's so
And what they
ridiculous.
do is they
Really
have
silly,
residents
and
it's
just
major
buy
problems.
marijuana
Plastic
from
in
other
there.
LPs,
It's all plastic.
and then
Child
they distribute
safety.
to medical patients,
They don't have child safety on liquor
which is
bottles.
fantastic.
No, it's brutal. Yeah.
So
we
there's
talk about it on the
different
show a lot,
places.
how brutal the packaging and how brutal the system is. For anybody who watches our show knows that we are really unhappy with the new system in general, and how they've rolled it out. It's unheard of. It's really a monopolization technique so that large corporations can get away with murder and basically it's more liberal bullshit. But I wanted to ask you guys, I guess the reason I was asking about groups that do it because I'm wondering what the best way to advocate for these kinds of changes are. And I'm assuming it's the same way that we do everything else. If there's not really a lot of groups that are taking it up, then this film is one of those ways, spreading this kind of knowledge and information.
Raising awareness for sure.
Raising awareness is what we start.
And more people that can give like anecdotal evidence. And I don't know if you know that one of the council people at City Hall was proposing to like increase enforcement and
Melissa DiGenova is her name.
Ugh.
Yeah, she's one of our
really funny. Like,
oh man, we talked about it on the show last 2 weeks ago or something, and we actually read out some of what the bill said, and she had all these whereas clauses saying
injecting
psilocybin, and that the Mexican drug cartels are bringing up the mushrooms.
Yeah.
Oh my
god!
What?
So,
I'm sorry, we grow
that
brain
was
mushrooms
defeated.
in Canada. That's
they're everywhere.
We went there, and so we sat through like, oh my god, dude, it was like almost 3 hours of total nonsense.
Yeah.
And the other counselors, like right away, Pete Fry, I think.
Yeah, Pete Fry.
He just had like 3 or 4 questions for her, and they were like pointed, and you could tell like he wanted to be somewhere else doing something, like not dealing with this total nonsense. And she's trying to roll in that this is to do with money laundering, which is totally ridiculous. Like the value of mushrooms compared to the value of cocaine, fentanyl, meth, heroin is fractional at best. And then also like the housing crisis and like don't even get me started.
It's a personal thing.
Yeah.
It's the anti-Dana bill.
That's what I thought.
And it's because Melissa hates us.
No, really?
Because of 420, right? So Dana is our
come on.
spokesperson for 420. So anything that Dana talks about, she's right up his ass with it.
It seemed like she had a personal vendetta against Dana. This is my interpretation. So without you saying that, it seemed like she had a personal vendetta, some history with this guy.
Oh yeah,
you could tell.
No.
And she tried to bamboozle her fellow council members by rolling psilocybin into an otherwise like maybe passable bill. Like, yes, we want to stop money laundering. Yes, we want to fix the housing crisis in Vancouver. Of course, it's easy to look at hard drugs and increase, like policing of hard drugs, but also like a compassionate approach to all of it would be to like decriminalize it and again put the resources towards recovery and healthcare. But it's like she was trying to just sort of package it in to this thing and hope she could get away with it because of a personal battle with somebody. It was totally transparent and ridiculous.
This is
and
how
it got
she does
voted
business,
down.
though.
It
this
got
is
voted
her on the
down
regular.
swiftly. Yeah.
It did. Yeah, I heard they made an amendment first to sort of change some of to like anti-Dana the thing, and then it got defeated anyways.
It was she was trying to just at the last minute when they were about to vote, then they were going to postpone it, but they said no, we're going to vote tonight, and then it was really interesting just watching the whole thing.
Wasn't she saying like we can vote to extend our deliberation process on this for a few weeks and just know that I will change every single whereas and every single clause
Just
to
change
whatever
the
you
whole
guys
thing,
think
yes.
would be good. So it was like
She's
vote
looking
yes
for
for something
newspaper
that
articles.
isn't even.
I don't know how it helps her because like
because she has a bunch of old grannies. She's married, first of all, and I don't want to say that this is anything, but she's married to a police officer, so she's very conservative and has been traditionally for a long time. And she is she represents the crazies out there, and there are a lot of them.
Yeah.
Because we see them because of 420. They really come out of the woodwork for 420, and she's like their rallying person. She's like the one who, the older folks who don't like, some of the people who live around that area or whatever, they hate 420 as well. So they're looking for some hero to come and be their crusader, and that's what she does because she knows that there's an audience out there for it. And it gets her in the newspaper quite a lot. And so she, and it's her and a couple others like Linda Steele that do this kind of stuff. They try to make fodder out of it, right? Just for their own personal gain.
Politics,
really. It's
right.
politics.
Yeah.
What does Linda Steele do?
She's an NPA member as well. So her and John Kupar from the board, the park board, do it together, and they get in the newspaper all the time because of it. So, sorry,
Linda. I was just like we were on the Linda Steele show.
Yeah.
The other day, and
she's a real piece of work too.
Linda Steele show.
Yeah, she's got her show on the radio. Yeah.
Oh, we were on that one. Yeah.
She seemed neutral.
She was very neutral. Hi, Linda.
Yeah, she's not so neutral.
Oh, okay.
When you talk to her, when we go on, she's not so neutral.
Okay.
Fair enough.
She doesn't like Dana either, actually, and has hung up the phone on him. We always go back on. She's had Dana on. She's had Neil on. Jody's been on. Yeah. But yeah, some of these radio DJs don't like us too much.
Yeah.
And try to find little ways to like get at us and take things that we say out of context in huge ways and stuff. And for some reason 420 really makes them go nuts.
Well,
they just hate 420. 100,000 people.
Is it because you guys like ruined the park one year?
No,
every year they just get pissed off.
That was fraudulent.
They tried to move us out towards the PD or
anybody.
Poco.
Yeah,
they wanted us some weird areas and they're calling me farms. Like it was like, come on, they tried.
The park was ready to use in like 3 weeks anyway.
Because don't forget, we were downtown, right in the center of town, up until 2015, until it got so overwhelmed. That was the year everything fluxed.
Yeah, it's a crazy thing.
It's like a fairly benign
point is
and from blocking off Maiden Rose and everything else, they started.
I think you guys should. I was going to ask.
I've never been to 420 until you invited me.
Oh yeah, you came last year.
You went last year.
You were there last year.
Yeah,
or no, this year.
This year.
Yeah, this year. The last one we had. Yeah, that was our.
That's probably our best one.
Fun. Yeah,
that
it was definitely.
That was definitely. The year before was good, but yeah, it's been definitely quite a journey.
It was a big show.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask you guys if you'd be willing, once the movie is out of the festival circuit and in theaters or whatever, would you guys be willing to send a copy of the film to all of our politicians in Canada? Essentially everybody. Like you should give them this movie.
I invited to the October 7th screening at the Vogue. I invited all the local politicians to I'm sure there's subgroups that I'm not too familiar with, like the Marxist group or something. But I invited the Liberal representatives, NDP, Conservative, and Green.
Cool.
And then also all of the City Council people that were at the B11, whatever.
B11.
DG Nova's resolution.
Right. Yeah, that's fantastic.
And
some are coming.
Yeah.
They're gonna come check it out, and
that's great.
We're not sure if we'll be able to incorporate them in and hear what they have to say. We've got a pretty nice lineup with.
We've got a packed lineup.
Paul Stamets and Dennis McKenna,
awesome.
Good for you guys.
all these guys, and Mark and.
You guys are talking about the research component, and there is research being planned through the BC Centre on Substance Use, and we have a representative of that organization as well on site to answer your questions about that side of things, about researching the medicinal value of these.
Psilocybin is a trial that should be coming out.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, I don't know what the details are on the red tape involved with getting a trial going, but it's a lot, because when Adrian and I first started talking about this in 2017, before we started filming, she said she heard about this on the radio, and there's a clinical trial that's going to be starting in Vancouver. And so our idea at first was let's wait for the clinical trial and just film her sort of before and after and see what happens, right? Well, that clinical trial still hasn't started, and it's been now 2 years later, and they're hoping to be able to announce something like a strong update at our event on October 7th as well, about when it will actually be happening. But imagine they thought at that time it was going to start in a few months, and it's been a couple of years.
So good thing we didn't wait.
Yeah, also good thing Adrienne said she would just try magic mushrooms on her own instead of waiting for the clinical. It was actually her that knew. She's like, it's going to take longer than that. Yeah. I'm like, they said a few months, but she's like,
yeah, that's
things
crazy.
Take longer.
Well, and I just feel like there's a lot of room here for a lot of advocacy for mushrooms. I'm glad to see Dana sort of getting behind some of this stuff, but I'd really like to see some, it's odd that healthcare professionals don't get behind these things sooner. when you start to look at some of the evidence, like with marijuana, it was like this for a long time.
Yeah.
Like doctors are some of the last people to get on board.
Yeah.
And like still, even to this day, they're resisting in heavy ways. All their unions and all the groups
They're
like
not
that.
taught this in school, and that's why.
It's such a strange
They know what they know, but like they don't have a year dedicated to like cannabis or whatever, like
or natural
courses.
medicine at all. I think really it seems like, you know, it's odd that because it's always this like, you know, it's trying to either synthesize things or put them into some sort of consistent dosage and all this kind of stuff. I guess natural medicine defies that in certain ways because you're never quite sure, even if you're grinding it up, you might not be so sure how much of the active ingredients are in that certain dose or something, right? So
some doctors are obviously like lovely and doing the right thing, and then there's evil ones out there as well, just like with police officers and just like with humans, right? So it's an interesting thing because
Dr. Evil.
Yeah,
Dr.
sure,
Evil.
Dr. Evil.
Yeah,
there's
evil.
like this Western medicine is always about prescribing. It's always about like you going in, you're getting a prescription for something. It's just
2 minutes
like,
later.
what is it?
2 minutes
it's
later.
like quick, right?
Yeah.
And so if you're feeling sad, you know, you'll get an antidepressant.
Yeah.
If you're, you might not even be like depressed. You might just be
sleep or something.
Suffering through a normal human event that you should actually be feeling, so you can process it and move on instead of just getting something that doesn't make you feel anything, and then there's side effects that come with that, and then they give you something else for that side effect, and then that has a side effect, and the next thing you know, you're on 15 medications, like Adrienne was,
And
something she
depression.
didn't need any of them.
And with depression, one of the most common side effects is worse depression and like feeling suicidal. Which doesn't seem like a good side effect to have with someone who's already feeling depressed. So.
I know some of
But
these
then
medications.
it does work sometimes,
It
though.
does.
Yeah, for
So
people
if
clinically
that
depressed.
works for people,
Yeah.
they should do that.
I
But
think-
if it doesn't work for people, they should have options to do Iboga with Mark safely, or mushrooms with somebody who can sit with them and guide them through, and you know, the 6-hour experience, which people say it's like 20 years of talk therapy in like 6 hours when you do a therapeutic dose of mushrooms. So and it's like you can reach depths of the psyche that you can never reach with talk therapy. So if you're struggling with really bad PTSD and stuff like that, it's something that people should do research on and explore. And if they go to their doctor, I bet 99 out of 100 doctors will say, it maybe 100 out of 100, like they'll say no, don't do that, because like they're going to be liable for something they don't know anything about really, because they never studied it, and they'll try to give them an antidepressant.
This circles us back to what you were saying earlier about how when you take mushrooms, you always want to do something positive, like call your mom or do yoga or something like that. So when you're feeling sad and you go to the doctor, you get a medication that numbs you to your feelings, and you're like pushing things away. Or when you go and get drunk, you're like pushing things away. Or when you take heroin, you're pushing things away. But when you take a psychedelic, you're becoming very aware of these things that you know you need to do in your life, and it helps you work through them by going towards your problems and towards whatever it is that you're challenging or struggling with. So that's the distinction, really. Yeah.
I had an experience recently too, and it told me that I need to do yoga because I'm playing like ball on the weekend, and otherwise I'm like working at a computer, and like playing ball when you go from like not running every day to sprinting, like I'm getting sore, right?
Yeah.
And it told me like go do yoga, like do yoga, like
That's
just
funny.
Get stretched out, and like.
What
Well, here's the funny
substance was
thing.
that?
Here's the thing.
I haven't.
Mushrooms.
That was mushrooms. Yeah.
Or no.
No, that was
CMT.
that was
My
5
suggestion-
MEO.
That was the 5-MeO. Yeah.
My
But-
suggestion for anyone who's starting yoga, just look up what a sun salutation is. It literally takes like 10 minutes to do in the morning. I do it every morning.
Oh, yeah.
What is it called?
Sun salutation.
Sun salutation.
Yeah. It's pretty much like a really, really slow burpee.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
And that was 5-MeO DMT.
That was
Yes.
Yeah.
Like it told me.
How
to
is
do
that?
Oh, it did?
And how is that? And you've taken regular DMT, or what people would know as the sort of standard. I mean, what's the difference between the two for you?
For me, the regular, more I guess more. Was it more popular or more common?
It's more common, and DMT is far more common.
Yeah. So however you distinguish it, it's the one that I think Joe Rogan talks about more often. But now he's been talking about 5-MeO with Mike Tyson.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's kind of funny, and a lot of people probably won't understand there's a difference. But for me, the regular DMT is like a lot of intense visuals, and it's on one where I guess maybe like I broke through more. It was as if I was in like the 6th or is it the 7th dimension. I was in a like weird traveling like folding worlds planet, like very very visual and interesting. What's that? Yeah. I thought I saw you there.
This guy does stand-up comedy when he's on DMT. Other people I've seen do DMT are just like knocked out, just having this crazy spiritual experience, and this guy just talks the whole time and cracks jokes. It's so funny.
Yeah, DMT is an interesting one. Every time I do it, it seems like a totally different kind of trip. And sometimes it's a little like jarring as well. Like you feel like you're blasted out of a cannon or something. But
I only did it once, and it was like the most comforting and warming feeling ever. And it was an extremely like feminine, comforting, motherly feeling. It was great. I really enjoyed it. I would absolutely do it again.
I did really like
the day that you guys ever get your
doing
hands on
DMT.
DMT vape pens, because
I keep hearing about these vape pens.
It is tricky to like vaporize to the right temperature and stuff. So like
a vape pen sounds like a good idea.
A vape pen, if
it works every time, sign me up.
Yeah, I guess we were at the beach, Carly reminded me, and we met a person at the beach that was actually making these vape pens. That's how we heard about it before.
I've heard a lot of people like buying dab rigs specifically for DMT too, and doing them like off one of these contraptions.
Temperature control.
Wow.
It's easy.
Yeah.
Just blast it. Yeah. Yeah, well,
but if you're gonna do that, that is your DMT piece. At that point, don't be like switching between DMT and dabs, because that's just gonna
taste like plastic or something.
It'll be weird.
DMT's got kind of a funny taste.
Yeah.
I had it. Yeah, it tastes disgusting. It's like
weird.
Especially if you burn it, like, and then it won't really work properly because it's burnt. But
you're supposed to just like vaporize
it's like
you put it in a joint
burning leather shoes in your mouth for a day.
Like you can.
I smoked it in a little pipe and it worked really well the first time I did it. Yeah, I was actually downstairs in this building at the back room and I did it. It was pretty intense. Yeah. But I was definitely in a colorful world.
We weren't doing therapeutically, but I mean, what you guys are talking about is all the therapeutic benefits of all different stuff. Yeah, I think it's.
I feel like in a way, even if you do it for fun, there's therapeutic value. I didn't expect to get anything therapeutic out of the first time I did mushrooms, peer pressured by a few friends and to take more. But I was like, no, I don't want to have a bad trip, right? And then I was like, okay, fine. And then it was just like such a great experience.
DMT pen Mark's got there.
Yeah. Is that the regular vape pen or is that a DMT pen?
Yeah, was that what kind of pen is that, Mark?
It's the Iboga pen.
Oh,
wow. He's not serious.
That's hilarious. Hey, you never know. Modern technology.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I mean, is that, I really hope that does actually, I think that's an actual point there. Maybe there will be easier ways to consume some of these ancient plants with modern technology. Like a DMT pen, I could see that being really beneficial.
Sure.
As long as
if somebody wants to experience it, they should be allowed to.
Yeah.
The thing is too, and I don't know, a lot of your listeners will probably already know this, but for like the mainstream out there is like, you don't really want to do these substances over and over again, so it's not addictive. So if you do mushrooms and do a high dose, like I did a high dose months ago, and I don't want to. Well, I'll do it again. I know I'll do it again because it was super interesting.
Yeah,
it was really interesting. But like, I didn't want to. It's like I'm good.
I refer to them as a shrinkation because you like get out of your normal mind for a little while and helps reset everything. But you don't need to go on vacation once a month or once a week. It's
not
just
like
nice to do it. Sometimes.
Where I want to smoke more of it.
Yeah, as a teenager, I think I went on a vacation probably every second day.
Okay, well, yeah, it's different when it's summer and you're in high school.
And it was funny because if I look at my childhood and in those mid-'80s when I was 16, 17, 18 in high school, there's mushroom fields where we lived. We could pick them on the way to school, grab a couple caps, everybody was eating mushrooms, and then then we came into the acid and stuff like that. So there was lots of psychedelics and stuff, and then with the area that I grew up in, and as I get older, I'm like, that era of my life was actually very beneficial, because I could always think of sitting and thinking and then looking at the new ways of going forward, and then I look where I am today in life. I'm like, I probably learned a lot of that from what I did when I was younger. And a lot of people I knew were on different pharmaceutical drugs, where I was over there smoking the weed and doing the mushrooms and doing a couple of double hits of acid on the weekend when everybody else was drinking and stuff like that, right? So, I mean, it's just different.
Your tolerance might be a little higher. See, for me, when I take any of those, like mushrooms or acid or something, the focus is on that experience completely, because it's incapacitating and I can't really do anything else. For me, if I was taking mushrooms and trying to go to work or something, it's not going to be the easiest experience. And that's happened before. I got dosed at 420 one year.
About that whole mass.
Yeah, or no, it was Cannabis Day.
I thought it was 420.
No, it was
heard from
my
other
birthday.
people that I'm sure that I can associate with Rob Line and a bunch of other people that I've talked to over the years. It's all the same people, so I gotta try that.
Yeah, you seem like you're on acid 24/7 anyway, so it doesn't even matter.
Well, what you're talking about is interesting, because not a lot of people would want to, I think, do mushrooms every 2 days. If that's in fact what you did, that's kind of unusual.
Totally
that's
unusual.
like on the high end of the
is.
spectrum. And what
Unless
mostly
it
people
was like
find
a
is they want to do it
microdose.
like
I'm eating mushrooms and
very
stuff.
infrequently.
We're going back
And that's
to
where there's no
high
money in it.
school.
For,
Yeah, it's
for
different though. When
pharmaceutical
you're in
companies.
high school, you just do shit to get fucked up.
Right,
Yeah.
so we just
'Cause
get
you're
fucking
bored,
wearing
you
mushrooms
know?
all the time. Like,
Yeah.
it was just something that we did.
There was a
I will
period
say
I did that
though-
with MDMA.
I will
When they
say
were
I've done
in those
mushrooms more than
seasons, though.
once.
Then you weren't out of
Yeah.
season, you weren't doing them anymore.
Yeah.
Then we were drying them.
The few
So
times
you-
when I did them consecutively,
And-
where it's
and
like,
chocolates.
oh well, we still have a little bit left over from last night. Fuck it, let's go ahead. It was like this weird thing that it's like the plant knew that I was kind of not respecting it and just kind of screwing around, and the trips were always the kind of uncomfortable, more anxiety inducing. So I feel like it's better to let your body reset after you trip on something and then go back to it. It's like, I was reading recently about how anyone who does acid 2 nights in a row, they have to at least double the dosage.
Yeah,
and
sure.
it's like,
At least
why don't you
more.
just wait?
Yeah.
Your tolerance gets much higher very quickly, and also psychedelics tend to bring out whatever you're feeling anyway. So maybe if you just had a big mushroom trip, maybe the next day you're feeling like a little bit sensitive from that, and then you take more, and it's just like.
Plus, the day after mushrooms, you still feel kind of weird.
Exactly.
You like smoke a joint, and you're like, am I still tripping a little bit?
It's cool that certain plants have this built-in anti-abuse factor.
Yeah.
They like you said, it's like they know. They're just like, no.
It wasn't, the mushrooms don't
even
get happy.
Cannabis is like that. I could smoke all day long, and I'm not going to get that high where it's like so incapacitating that I can't feel it anymore. It's just like, at some point, it just basically is like, you're good, no matter how much more you take.
Yeah.
But maybe in a single dose, like if you were to take a heavy dose of acid, it's going to be pretty intense, or mushrooms too. Yeah.
Everybody's got the fear of the heavy dose of acid. That we heard the story of the guy being on an acid trip in a hospital and this and that, and so that was when we grew up. So no one ever really did any more than a few doubles and stuff like that. But
oh yeah, you always hear the scare stories about guys jumping out windows and
trying to eat a cop's face.
And I know some people that eat mushrooms pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
Or glass blowers. People we're talking about, there's a certain people that just.
But people don't say, oh my gosh, I'm scared of doing alcohol because I heard about somebody that took alcohol and got drunk and crashed a car. Oh my gosh, I want to do it, right? It's just part of society.
Yeah. Well, if they did, they'd have more than enough stories on alcohol, fucked up, crazy shit to complain about. Sure. I know, it's odd that there's this weird double standard.
It's so stupid.
That just doesn't make
hypocritical.
People don't think logically or something.
They're supervised consumption sites.
Yeah.
That's what bars are.
Yeah.
And it's kind of
for sure.
It was.
We need those for everything.
It was illegal once as well, prohibition and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So cannabis had its prohibition era. And maybe it didn't come to legalization the way that some people would have hoped, but it is now legal.
beginning stages.
I think that there's a lot here in Vancouver. Because of all the stuff, recently you guys were at City Council, there was this mushroom debate happening. Just a few months ago, we were at City Council when the mayor was having his opioid task force. And we brought up that, marijuana dispensaries should be allowed because they're helping people get off of other hard drugs, and people use high-dose marijuana edibles and other things as a substitute for opioids in a lot of senses. If you don't want to go and get a painkiller from your doctor, people use it for painkilling and all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But that fell on deaf ears and a lot of eye-rolling from the mayor, who's kind of a jerk to us when we were there. Not kind of, completely was. Total prick to us. But I think that the counselors themselves were very receptive to the kinds of things that we were talking about. I think that there's probably, I would love to see treatment centers here in Vancouver, Iboga treatment, a lot of them in the downtown east side or around. And I think that the current climate at City Hall is something that seems to be, if there was a bit more advocacy and really putting this in their face a lot, they're really looking for a lot of ways to, and right now they're starting to look at alternatives. So now it seems like it's the time to strike with this stuff.
What did they say today? A report came out, and that was when I was coming in here, and they talked about that. They're saying the police enforcement in the downtown east side is causing more road overdoses, more stuff like that, and they want to where they don't want as much enforcement down there. What we need down there is, like you're saying, these education. I think we got to change.
They're starting to be more sensible.
Enforcement and put in more education people and getting those people in there and look at a different enforcement and what exactly what we're talking about here. I think that's a better way of looking at the problem.
They should want that too. Everybody's very aware that first responders suffer from PTSD. And if you're just rolling up on dead bodies and stuff, it could be car accidents and everything else as well. But that's not really the most pleasant thing for the human to experience over and over. And so if you're rolling up on overdoses and stuff like that constantly, it will take its toll on people, and it's kind of a sad situation because then there's another drug that's illegal that can help people, first responders, get over it, but police officers, for example, obviously they're not allowed at all to do anything illegal, and meanwhile they kind of need it. They need it. First responders, ambulance attendants, stuff like that. They need this form of therapy that allows them to just not hold it all.
Well, MDMA therapy is, it's in, what's it coming up into phase 3?
Yeah, MAPS Canada is in phase 3 clinical trials for MDMA assisted psychotherapy for PTSD, and of course, they started with veterans and first responders to show that it works for some of the most severe forms of PTSD, and that's supposed to be legal in I think a year or two, hopefully. And so our event on October 7th is a joint fundraiser with MAPS Canada to continue, so they can continue doing what they're doing to help people. And I hope when it's legal that the police officers can get in there as well, because I know a couple people that are police officers that need it and want it, but can't.
Right, of course.
And it's interesting that
Mayor,
Councillor DiGenova's husband, you said, is a police officer. I'm confused, that she would be against helpful medicine like this. It's use the internet. She's probably not watching this, but it's
you never know with her.
It's use the internet and look up PTSD for police officers, and even if your husband has a desk job, I know somebody that was almost killed, and they have PTSD from that, as a police officer. And it's a tough job, so let them get.
I think the thing with the city is that we're at a point in time where it's kind of recognized now that the war on drugs is a fucking dismal failure. For any kind of public policy, that is just, it's such a dismal failure.
For real.
So now they're looking for ways to backpedal on the bullshit propaganda that they've been enforcing down people's throats for so long. So and also a lot of these drugs actually are available, dark web, things like that. As we were saying, acid, mushrooms, when we were younger, is all freely available. So, you would think that then that they would get to a point of being sensible, that if people are going to use these substances, then they should be used in a proper manner with some support by people that know what they're doing. It's a fucking no-brainer.
Sensibility is not the government's strong suit, unfortunately. No, I know. It pains me to think that there's this solution or a bunch of these solutions that are right there in front of our face, right here, even in Vancouver, where they're literally the mayor's like looking for ways to stop the opioid crisis.
Right here.
And we're dangling it in front of their faces.
Well,
and,
they just came out with Suboxone as their big, solution,
which is
the
the worst opioid
worse.
replacement to get off of. It's far harder to get off of sub than any short-acting.
So they take a bunch of time to do a bunch of research, tabulate all their ideas and take a bunch of minds and then just be like Suboxone, right? And everyone's like, do you not Google?
Yeah, they're still listening to the Sackler family and what they're they came out with OxyContin and then all of the I don't know about all
things to get you off.
Yeah. Well, no, but before that they also owned all of the off-brand generics.
Right. Yeah,
so they were just cashing in on it and advertising it and marketing
and
it
flooding the market with as much as they could.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there was heroin in everybody's medicine cabinet. Do you know what I mean?
And then they patented something similar to Suboxone, which is now everybody they got hooked. Now they can switch to this other thing that you have to stay on for the rest of your life. So they just got both. And why would anybody with any sense be listening to that? And now the cracks are forming. They're shamed.
Getting sued.
The company's going bankrupt. They're funneling money offshore.
$1 billion.
Trying to hide their money and their teenage kid can't be accepted to high school. I can't go to parties.
Well, I
here for that. But
I hope that stuff works. It always seems like there's some new company there to exploit things. Just the next step. You know? Well, but I mean, I am optimistic about it, and especially here in Vancouver, where I think right now this kind of stuff, even Van Du has had success with. I think the reason the iron striking now, I think our iron is hot, is because this court case that we just lost, a court case about marijuana, and I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but Cannabis Culture was involved in a court case with a number of other dispensaries, 65 of them here in Vancouver, because the government of Vancouver went after us, all the dispensaries, with injunction orders to try to close them down. So we challenged those in a constitutional challenge in court, and as part of the constitutional challenge, as kind of a second part of our case, we actually debated whether or not Vancouver had the right to even go after us at all, or the right to even make any kind of marijuana laws because they're against the federal laws. So the judge came back, in one way, unfortunately for us, because he didn't rule on the constitutionality of our challenge in saying that we think that marijuana dispensaries are a vital part of having the medical marijuana program in Canada, that people can't just grow for themselves. And they can't just get it from the recreational program that the government has designed because they need a medical program. So the judge chose not to rule on that at all. He said, well, I'm not going to rule on this because the other part already negates it. What he ruled was that Vancouver has the right to make any kind of laws it wants to around, or I'm paraphrasing here obviously, but in a medical context, a municipality can make its own rules even if they're in defiance of federal rules. So if the federal government has a rule that says, all of these things are illegal, the city of Vancouver can actually allow to put regulations in place to allow these things to happen here on the ground. So in a way, it was almost a win for the community, moving forward the other drugs that we want to have legalized, right? So
I just said at that city hall meeting they don't have jurisdiction to make it decriminalized or legalized. I swear that they said that directly to Dana when Dana was speaking.
Well, that's kind of bullshit, though, because they know damn well they just won this court case. And we are appealing the court case, actually, so I hope we lose that part of it. But it is an odd thing that it seems like right now, and I think that when they were talking about the Cannabis Substitution Project in a recent city council meeting, they were talking about marijuana and other solutions for the opioid crisis. And they even had a bill, Neil was ranting about it, because they basically said that they would be okay with groups using it as a harm reduction technique, like Neil's cannabis substitution project. Right? And Neil is working with Vandu on that project, and others like Sarah Blythe, who have had programs, the High Hopes program, where she was giving high dose edibles to people in the downtown east side too. Until the cops came and
I saw that.
Hustled her. But that was just some rogue cops. That wasn't an order from above.
Okay.
That was just some guys being pricks. Yeah. And because they came up to her and they said, "Oh, well, whose is this? This is illegal." And she's like, "I don't know." And so they're like, "Well, you're not claiming it, then we're just going to take it." And they seized it, right? So, again, it's weird. The enforcement happens on a multitude of levels. Like even the cops, individual cops can make a move and cause people grief, but
we've seen that many times. Yeah.
It doesn't seem like it's coming from the higher ups in Vancouver, though. When it comes to these things, they seem to be sort of ripe right now for us putting a little bit more of this pressure. Yeah. So I mean, I'd love to find ways of working with you guys to put more of that pressure about this particular issue, or whatever groups are out there working on this. I think now.
Yeah, because there's these motions that are happening in different cities. Like Oakland decriminalized entheogens, and then I think Berkeley were right behind them, and there's some other cities.
Denver.
So and that was an argument at the city hall the other night when these motions are happening in other cities, and like we're the progressive West Coast city. Cannabis legalization happened because of what happens out here in BC.
It's funny, and this is like something that Councillor DeGenova did. She'd like stop somebody talking, and she'd ask like, and then she's like allowed to interject a question or whatever, and she's like,
point of order.
Did you know that Health Canada says that people are injecting psilocybin? And it's like, whoa, like, did you just land on planet Earth? Like, it doesn't matter if that's in the Health Canada manual. Nobody's doing that. You can't even find psilocybin.
Synthesized
psilocybin is not available. If and when it is around, it's going to be super expensive.
You can pick this for free.
Have you ever heard of any instance where somebody injected psilocybin?
Nobody has.
Sorry, probably has.
It probably has. People do silly things. Somebody's probably like, I wonder what would happen if I did this, and they probably injected marijuana as well.
Extract it?
And
there is actually the chemical, I think, for psilocybin is for ACO DMT.
So if you get the chemical,
so you can get it straight.
I don't know. Could you inject powder?
When they're like at the Johns Hopkins trials and everything, they weren't giving people here's the Cubensis.
It's not mushroom.
Right. That's probably where it was injected. In a hospital clinical setting. Maybe they injected it there.
But somebody somewhere probably maybe did that like once, and then they're like, oh, somebody injected it, but like no, I don't think so.
And I think it's more
not
like
craziness.
It could be possible. Do you know what I mean? But it's not what.
Well, it's just
that's
like
not the standard.
You could shove a mushroom up your butt too and see what happens. It's like there's, you know what? Like Health Canada should either add that option.
Psilocybin suppositories.
It's a great trip.
That sounds like something Dana would make.
Those caps go anywhere. So,
but Health Canada should either add that as an option, or they should remove the other one. And I don't think it matters if it said that or not. There was like this ulterior motive behind that resolution. But it was so silly to see somebody like so unbelievably unaware and naive. And that's, again, it's just like, please just Google like psilocybin clinical trials and like Johns Hopkins, NYU. They're doing studies in Alabama. Vancouver's coming up. Imperial College London. Like, it's it's happening.
I'm thankful for Melissa DeGenova in one way, and that's because she shows us what we're up against. If she is there and she's a city councilor, then you know that there's these people out there, right? And so it's like, how do we find ways of convincing those people? Maybe somebody like Melissa is probably never going to be convinced because I don't think she's genuine.
Well,
she's disingenuous.
She was knocked down 8-1.
Right.
You know what I mean? She was pretty isolated in the room there. Do you know what I mean?
And that I think is what's great about our current city council is they're pretty down to earth.
Well, I was thinking probably half of them had taken mushrooms anyhow.
They probably have.
You know what I mean? So
once upon a time, anyway.
Or one or two of them last week. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, the Vancouver Park Board, I'm sure they have secret private little meetings and harvest the mushrooms.
They know what's coming up where and when.
Yeah, they have a whole department for that, I'm sure, secretly.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you guys coming on. I mean, it's getting close to 6 o'clock here. We probably should wrap this up. But is there anything else that we didn't touch upon that you guys thought was important? I mean, I think we pretty much went everywhere. And we'll have you guys back.
I mean, yeah, like it's a long conversation that can go on and on.
It
so,
can.
That was good.
Pretty much.
But very cool. On October 7th, Dosed will be at the Vogue Theater, and this is a joint fundraiser to raise awareness about using psychedelics in a therapeutic context. What's the fundraising portion? How does that work, and what's it going to?
It's going to MAPS Canada.
Oh, it's going to MAPS, right?
Yeah, and then just for their ongoing operations, and like they're working with MDMA right now, and that is helping people with PTSD, specifically first responders like police officers and veterans, but I think also people that have struggled with like sort of significant childhood trauma, like sexual abuse or something, and so when that phase 3 trial is done. MDMA in the States and Canada should be like legally available you'd work with somebody,
with a therapist,
and then you would use that to treat your PTSD that otherwise is untreatable.
Now, is that something that's been promised by the Liberal federal government, or is that actually like enshrined already that this will be?
See, I'm not 100% sure. Trevor Miller was supposed to be on the call or today, but he wasn't able to make it, and he would know a bit more about that. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure. I think this has been going on
anyways.
Yeah, I think this has been going on longer than the current government, because phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, like it takes years. And it's kind of sad that it takes so long because there's so many people that need it, and the efficacy's already been proven, but then, and they have to prove it again and prove it again.
Yeah. Well, I guess they're doing. Yeah. I don't know. I for some things I think that's good. For things that we show a lot of promise and don't really have a lot of negative side effects, it seems that they drag their feet on those things when they're very quick sometimes.
The government drags its feet on pretty much everything.
That's true.
Unless it's something that works out well and puts money in their pocket, then they'll just...
Well, that's how you get people paid for it too. They got strong unions that.
It's not a particularly fast process for FDA approvals of like prescription medication either, though.
Right.
Yeah, like it does take a long time in all instances, but there's just so much more of that stuff happening because if they can patent a molecule and then make it work for something, then they can make billions of dollars, and that's part of the stock market and the system that we live in. And I mean, businesses should obviously be able to make money. It's kind of sad that like can the government take it over or something and have it be part of healthcare? It costs, like if somebody's going in daily, like Adrienne was to get her daily dose of methadone, then it costs about $6,000 for her, and that's paid by taxpayers, right? She's not paying $6,000 for methadone. It's paid for. It's under the healthcare system, and to do like Iboga and some of these medicines, like it's not cheap, but it's a lot cheaper, like
and
way cheaper,
a lot better,
and it works a lot better.
Exactly.
So it doesn't keep you on it though as well. So the problem is like it's cheaper, and you might only need it once or twice, or you might need maybe once a year.
Or if you're depressed, you might need only $10 worth of mushrooms, and then you never feel depressed again. So.
We should mention there's the Spirit Plant Medicine Conference is coming up November 1st to the 3rd, and that's like an event where there's like 20 plus speakers and like information tables and stuff like that, and so if people want to really dive deep and immerse themselves in this community, they can go to that, and we've partnered up with Mark and Andrew, and so if you buy a ticket to Spirit Plant, you get a free VIP ticket to our show. And our show's obviously got the movie, and then we're going to have a nice Q&A with a bunch of experts as well. So like you're going to get, and you can come early and talk to people like like us and Mark and
People from
Gareth
the
and everybody. And
Very
so
cool.
so there's this whole thing going on there, but it's I wanted to mention that.
That conference is amazing. We've had the organizers on the show before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely something to go to. Anybody that's watching this show, check that out for sure.
And so right now, if you get their ticket, you get one for us, and it's the VIP
It's a
ticket.
limited
as
time
well.
thing and limited quantities.
Oh sure, yeah.
Yeah.
It might run out, but
Well, congratulations, guys, on such an amazing piece of art and also just an educational thing that, I mean, I really do think that this kind of stuff can quickly cause a revolution in medicine, when some of this stuff gets out there and they see real world personal, a lot of times the statistics just don't do it. You can have all the statistics you want all over the place, but without some way of channeling that into a personal experience, people have a hard time digesting what it truly means.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys have a bit of a treasure here in that you're giving this real world example of like a person going through this process. It's right there. The proof is in the damn pudding right there. Like you can't argue with that. And it also tugs on people's heartstrings and has the power to really be popular and get that message out there. So
yeah, we're trying to. I think the city is trying to have like a compassionate approach, and there's Bell Let's Talk, trying to make mental illness like unstigmatized and okay to talk about, and then there was bus ads all over the place, and it was like father, teammate, coworker, drug addict. It was like, and just showed like a picture of a regular person, and like that's part of what's happening. It's not just the microcosm of the downtown east side. It's like people everywhere and people with good jobs. Like I know doctors that have been hooked on I guess fentanyl.
Yeah,
or maybe
yeah. I've
morphine
treated
and-
college professors. CEOs.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't discriminate.
No.
Right.
And a lot of times, I mean, when people have pain, they're looking for something to relieve that pain, and it's easy once you're in to get hooked on these things.
Oh, totally.
I remember they gave me pharmaceutical drugs for my pain control because I was in an accident that led to heroin addiction.
Yeah.
Just fell right into play. They cut me off the farm.
Well, especially when they cut people off.
Now
we've wired you, and now we're cutting you off.
Better. I'm like, woohoo! I can.
That's what sends people to the downtown east side.
It seems like almost every
side.
addiction story starts like that.
Yeah.
I did a lot of stuff on the east side in 2007, 2008 with the harm reduction, with the 4 pillars, with all that. We did a lot of education with converted forms of THC for getting people off of opiates and stuff like that. So kind of walked and seen it and being involved, and it's definitely it's good to hear what's going on here today and what you guys are doing, because I mean that's been needed for so long.
No, totally. Thank you guys so much for coming down. Really awesome.
Thanks, guys.
And thanks to everybody for being here. And again, hit that up. You guys can go on dosedmovie.com and you'll find links to where you can get tickets for the show on October 7th at the Vogue Theater. And put your info, email address in, and they'll get a hold of you when other places outside of Vancouver have access to the film as well.
And anybody watching this, hit share at the end of this, because you got to get this information out there. Just show the love and hit share.
Yeah. And thanks also to Mark, who came in through the Skype there. Who's with us in a little box hovering here and expanding and shrinking as we... Thanks, guys. And Tyler, Nick, and Gareth, I really appreciate you guys coming down. We'll have you back as soon as possible.
Thanks.
Yeah,
Thanks,
man. Great work on everything.
Yeah.
And thanks to you guys too, Johnny, Carly, for being on the show today.
Thanks.
Awesome. And Mr. Emil on the ones and twos over here. Great work, brother.
I just want to make sure we remind everyone before we sign out that we've got a great sale on right now at Cannabis Culture, in store and online. All sorts of amazing things, both in store and online, and they have different things with different prices. So check out both if you can.
Harvest sale.
Harvest season sale. Check it out. The website has some amazing deals on things we never put on sale. So
CannabisCultureHQ.com.
go get yourself some MJ creams and some Remo nutrients on sale. It never happens.
You put a whole bunch of stuff on
I put a whole bunch. There's a bunch of locally made glass art and pendies and some clothes. I added a bunch of new products just to get them up and on sale for you guys. So go check it out, CannabisCultureHQ.com. There you go. And we've also got lots of stuff in store. 307 West Tastings. They're not doing the MJ creams and the nutrients. They've got all the clothes pretty much on sale there. They've got the Huff socks, buy one get one 50% off. Another thing you can like never find on sale ever. So go check it out. Check it out in store, online.
And we'll see you next Friday. Watch all the great shows on Pod TV all week long, starting tomorrow with Alyssa's show, High Noon at noon. Tune in. Drug peace.
Yeah.
Are we still banned on YouTube? I'm Marijuana Man. Welcome to From Under the Influence. If they had weed, guaranteed they would make money. That's the only conclusion I can come to, is they don't have any weed. Because people are still going to buy it, for God's sakes. People actually like weed and want to buy weed. And a huge number of people have no choice but to come and buy it from you. And still, you can't make money? Holy fuck. Now what? What are you going to do to us now? When I was even at a very young age, go, wow, like, why would this be illegal? It is so much fun.
Outlawing laughter and feeling good?
Yeah,
What?
laughing. Thanks for joining us. See you next time. Peace. And pod.
Hi there. Welcome to the 420 Lifestyle Show. I'm Carly Marley. She's taking a dab. Thanks.
We can play the Sick and Moose video.
Oh yes, Sick and Moose video. Let's play the Sick and Moose video.